listen carefully, you can hear it dripping out the bottom of the gutter here. This is Jonathan. Today we're back out at the garage, and I wanted to show you what has been happening since the last time I climbed the ladder. So stay tuned and we'll show you what's happening. Before I let you go, if you wouldn't mind helping us get out in front of more YouTube folks, if you hit the like and or subscribe buttons, then that will let YouTube know that you are enjoying the content, and it will make it available to more people. So again, we appreciate your support with that. Now here's the video. Looking at the Englert system, we've got some rain that's kind of ebbing and flowing. You can see that it builds up a film, essentially a layer of water on top of that screen as it comes off the roof, and then it just drops to the underside. So what I'm trying to see is how much water, if any, is coming over the edge, and so far it's looking pretty good. You might be getting a little dripping off the top here, but there were no real visible signs of water just moving over top of that little ledge at the front of the system. So I'll kind of check back as we get more rain. Here we're looking at the GutterRx system, perforated aluminum panel. You can see it sits relatively flat inside the gutter. It's got a series of little humps on it, and you can see how the water just transitions off the roof in a series of streams. So once the water hits the surface, it just finds the available holes and drops through. This is the Shur-flo aluminum gutter protection system. Looks very much like the GutterRx. It's got a little wavy surface to it, a little stair step at the front, and holes that are about 1/8 of an inch in diameter. Pretty much works the same way. The water just transitions off the roof, hits the available holes, and drops through the screen into the gutter. It's not raining very hard at the moment, but you can see with the LeafOff system, the solid gutter cover that is akin to gutter helmet, you can see how the water transitions off the roof and just works its way forward across the panel. And then when we get to the front nose, the water just follows that flow around the corner, around that curve. So down here you can kind of see an example of how it's coming down across the top, and then it gets a little more difficult to see, but essentially what it's doing is just transitioning around that corner and dropping into the gutter itself. So a pretty common question is, will the water actually follow that nose? And it's just basic physics of surface tension. So the answer is yes, it will follow that nose. Let's zoom out a little bit there. Here's a situation where I think everything is pretty evenly spaced, gapped. If you can see that little silver hanger inside the gutter, there you can just see it right in the center of your screen. That's what the GutterGuard connects into. So it just clips inside that clip, that bracket, and rests inside there, and then it slides up the second course of shingles. You come over to the end here, I mean, maybe because I think the GutterGuard is pretty consistent, but possibly the end of the gutter, when we cut it, it moved the lip up a little bit, so it's a little bit bent at the end there upwards, so it's closed the gap a little bit, and as a result we're getting some water dripping over. So the flow rate of the water is not strong enough that when it comes around that corner, it's not shooting it back into the gutter. It's more or less just hitting the bottom of the GutterGuard panel, and then it drips onto the lip of the gutter, and then as you can see here, it's just coming over the front and dripping off the bottom. I wanted to take a moment to introduce myself. I appreciate you for watching this video so far. I hope you find it informational. And before I get you back to the programming, I just wanted to take a moment. I'm Jonathan with Gutter Guards Direct. We've been helping homeowners solve their gutter and water problems since 1996. I started this video series in 2020 as a way to help homeowners better discern what gutter protection systems really work. There's obviously a lot of hype in the market. There's a lot of products on the market, way more products today than there ever were in the past, and I've always thought there were way too many gutter protection systems on the market. So this series is really my effort to help myself understand what are the best systems on the market, but by turning it into the Ultimate Gutter Guard Challenge on YouTube, it also helps you figure out what are the best systems for your particular environment. And again, I hope you're enjoying this video. Before I send you back to the programming, I wanted to take a moment and let you know that we also install gutters and gutter guards. And the guttering portion of it is generally in conjunction with installing the gutter guards. So we're not necessarily chasing gutter installation work by itself, but we will do it again if we are installing gutter guards on your home. And we service all of Ohio. We service southeast Michigan, so greater Detroit and Ann Arbor areas. We do greater Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania to the east. To the west, we go as far as greater Indianapolis and points a little bit north of Indianapolis, and pretty much south of there down to the Cincinnati and kind of Louisville, Kentucky areas. So anywhere kind of along the Ohio and northern Kentucky border. We service Louisville and Lexington, Kentucky, and then really any point in between those markets from Ohio all the way down to Tennessee, where we service greater Nashville, greater Knoxville, and occasionally we'll even visit Chattanooga. So if you live in any of these markets and you are interested in a free assessment at your home and a free estimate, feel free to give us a call at 1-800-750-2131. Again, that's 1-800-750-2131 for your free in-home estimate. Thanks, and back to the programming. You can see on this panel as the debris is kind of shifting from back to front, it just follows those stair steps. And because you've got these stair steps that are as pronounced as they are, in combination with the expanded metal portion of it, so this portion here, 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 and then another one up there, what happens is the debris is getting stuck up against that material, up against those openings, and it's making it difficult for the material to transition off the top of the panel. And then what we're seeing is, it's not raining very hard right at the moment, but if we just look here in the middle, you can see where water is dripping into my palm. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 maybe spots right there where the water is just coming off the top, rolling down, and then it's just dripping off the bottom of the gutter. So this is a system that we have seen installed before, not very often, but it is a DIY product. And if we look to the underside here, you can see how the water's dripping off at a pretty good pace. Right now it's not raining very hard out here, so you can see with the concentration of the debris, actually there's not that much debris in that area compared to say over here, but it is more consistently dripping off the bottom of the gutter, and you can see how dirty the face of the gutter is as a result. This is the Klean Gutter system, micro mesh with a perforated aluminum screen on its underside. This one has been installed now for less than 24 hours, So you can see how quickly the debris transitions off the roof, especially when it's raining. So we had some rain last night. It's raining a little bit now, not too hard, but it brings that stuff off the roof. So obviously with the micro mesh, you want to keep that stuff, as much of that stuff out of the gutter as possible. And it's just not raining hard enough right now to really see much happen. And when you put a gutter guard up under the shingles, it also disguises it to some degree, because if you look at a system that has an opening or has a gap between the shingle and the gutter guard itself, you can see how that water is actually dribbling off the edge of the shingles. But here, because it's up underneath the shingles, it just intersects at that point, and the water literally just transitions into the gutter guard. So if you listen carefully, you can hear it dripping out the bottom of the gutter here. Now if we look at the face of the gutter, you can see that we've got some water droplets forming at the bottom of the gutter. Looks like we have a little water that's potentially transitioning off the gutter guard, but we just don't have enough rain at the moment to see that truly in action. So we'll wait for a heavier rain and then take another look at it. Here we're looking at GutterStuff on the south side of the garage. So GutterStuff is a foam insert. It's always reminded me of what I would think a pool filter would look like. So it's dense but not crazy tight weave, but it's dense enough that it's going to prevent the leaves and debris from getting to the bottom of the gutter. What it doesn't do is prevent the leaves and debris from sitting on top of the gutter guard itself, or in this case the insert. So this is a product that's readily available at most hardware or home improvement stores, and you can see essentially what's happened here. It hasn't prevented any of the leaves and debris from getting inside the gutter. It's just preventing the leaves and debris from getting to the bottom of the gutter. But for most people, this becomes a problem, because over time you're just going to have a buildup of stuff inside there. In order to get it back to its original state, you're essentially going to have to take this foam insert out, shake it off, and then reinsert it. And that's really not why most people get gutter guards. So the roof area is clean. You're not getting any dripping off the edge of the gutter, other than what's falling out of the sky, and then just naturally coming down the face and then slowly dripping from the bottom where it beads up. So from that perspective, you know, it's doing what it should, because it's actually inset inside the gutter and the debris is just sitting on top of it here. And there it will sit until it just kind of builds up, and we'll see what happens. So this has been up here for now about 2 months. So this has had the benefit of the locust flowers. You can see the pine needles, a couple small pine cones, a bunch of leaves off the locust tree, as well as some other leaves up here at this point. Here we're looking at the LeafSolution Xtreme Micro Mesh Gutter Guard. Used to also be called Rhino. This is a product that we've got familiarity with. We used to be a seller of this product, and you can see it is a micro mesh screen with an expanded aluminum framework below it. It's essentially a flat panel that you can put up at an angle. So it screws to the front lip, and then you can see here it screws to the fascia board. So your ability to get an angle on it is somewhat dictated by your roof situation. In fact, it's wholly dictated by your roof situation. So in this case, we put it up a little bit of an angle. We didn't want to put it up at too extreme of an angle, just to give it a chance to take in as much water as possible. You can see the debris that's sitting on top of it. We're now in mid-July, and this system has gone through the majority of the locust flowers that came off in the spring back in early June. So you can see remnants of that stuff sitting on top of there. You can also see remnants of the locust flowers plus the pine needles up on the roof. So the pine needles are falling down all the time. The locust flowers fall down in abundance over a short window of time, and then they just kind of hang out until they successfully dry off and blow away. So we are probably a few weeks away yet from these drying up to the extent that they need to, so that they can blow off the surface. What we found last year with, this is actually the spot where Master Shield was last year, the first position on the south side of the gutter. So Master Shield overall was clean throughout the competition, had a little bit of stuff on it here and there, but next to it sat Leaf Filter, which sat at a pretty flat angle as well. It also has a little bit of a built-in slope to it, but looked more like this over a period of time. So overall, I'd say this one is doing okay. At the moment, the buildup of whatever's on top of it isn't that extreme, pardon the pun, and at the moment it appears to be taking in most of the water. Now if you look here where you've got some debris transitioning off the gutter itself from the gutter guard onto the gutter, you can see how that water follows that path of least resistance, and it will just drip off the bottom of the gutter. So you can see beading here to the right, it's just water droplets that are slowly moving off of there. Where you have a more concentrated flow of water coming off the roof, like you can see there, 3 streaks of water, you also have the water then converging and beading and dripping off the bottom. So that's what you can expect when you've got debris that comes up to the front edge of the gutter there and it's raining. Last year we had every section of gutter covered. So this is the 4th position on the south side of the garage, and I believe this is where the Gutter Love product was located. So this year I decided to change up the test a little bit and show folks what it would be like if there wasn't a gutter guard installed, because this is where most people are starting. They have an open gutter, or they have a gutter guard on there that's not really doing the trick, and it allows the leaves and debris to get inside the gutter and clog things up. So right now, right where my finger is, or where you see this green leaf, that is the downspout opening. You can see that right below. So the gutter itself is clogged all the way across. Now you can see it's moist inside there, so the water's still working its way through. It's not like we've got a buildup of water inside this gutter, but this gives you a pretty good idea of how much debris has fallen in the last few months since we put up some of these gutter guards. So for example, here we've got the open gutter, and next to it we have one of the Home Depot products, that panel. So you can see that thing's been covered for the same period of time that this has been open, and that's the remaining debris that's sitting on top of it. So despite there being debris sitting on top of it, it still has done an effective job of keeping most of that debris out of the gutter, I suspect, and then allowing it to slowly transition to the ground below. Whereas if you have an open gutter, this is what you can expect, and it doesn't take very long for this to fill up like that. So what we have in here, a combination of pine needles, some small leaves, and then a lot of that dark stuff that you see there are the flowers off the locust tree. And those flowers, when they clump together and they get wet, they just mat together and become like a sponge, so to speak. So on a really heavy rain, it would be interesting to see if this thing backs up, if it literally, the level of the water rises inside the gutter. So we'll get out here and take a look at that at some point. This is the expanded metal gutter screen on the south side of the garage. So this is a very common type of screen. This is installed a lot by gutter people who install gutters, repair gutters. It's commonly available at the hardware store, home improvement store, as well as most gutter supply houses. So I would guess that it's probably the most common type of gutter screen that gets installed. The problem is it's also one of the least effective screens that gets installed, and it's really at best a band-aid. And I would say in some cases it's not even really a Band-Aid. It's a poor substitute for a lot of the professionally installed systems that are on the market. The reason I say that is you can see it doesn't have a ton of debris sitting on top of it. Now when we installed this, we installed it up at an angle. We put it up under this roof. And that's oftentimes not how this gets installed. So generally, I would say it gets installed within the gutter, which means because it's a longer panel, it essentially has a convex position to it. So just think of an upside down U. See, it's low at the front of the gutter, and then it's low at the rear of the gutter. And essentially what that does is it creates a V channel between the roof line and the gutter screen itself, which allows a lot of leaves and debris to collect in that V, in that channel. But in this particular case, we decided to slide it up underneath the shingles, which is another application for it. It doesn't really matter whether it's under the shingles or not. I mean, in this case, it's actually probably working better being up under the shingles because we don't have that V groove on the back, but stuff still gets stuck on top of it. Now, what's really interesting, and I don't know if you can see maybe some water movement inside the gutter. The water in this case is filling up inside the gutter, and I thought it was pretty darn close to the bracket, but it actually looks like it's sitting down under that bracket. So I would guess there's probably a couple of inches of water inside the gutter at the moment. Here, there's maybe a better perspective where you can see the daylight shimmering and then the water droplets just hitting the inside. So that's water inside the gutter that's just sitting there. And I just tapped on the downspout to make sure that the downspout was not clogged. So you can hear that hollow sound with it. And that hollow sound means that it's not clogged in the downspout, but it's definitely clogged at the downspout opening, which is right there. So water is just building up inside this. And what this says to me is a lot of the locust flowers that fell off the tree behind us were small enough that they penetrated through the screen. So while it always looked like there wasn't a lot of stuff sitting on top of it, which is true, a lot of that stuff got inside the gutter and instantly clogged it up. So in order for you to deal with this, you're now going to have to take the gutter screen off, clean out the gutter, and put the gutter screen back on. And in my opinion, you would probably be better just to never put the screen on to begin with, because as you saw to the left over here, let me swing back around, there's the open gutter. And while there's no water building up inside of it, I can't really tell you why there's no water building up inside that one. And there's water building up inside this one, but clearly enough stuff got on top of that downspout opening to seal it up, which has allowed the water to build up inside. So, this is kind of an interesting dilemma. Do you put something on this on your house like this? And unfortunately, a lot of people, when they ask for mesh or micro mesh, this is what lands on their gutters. So their perception of mesh has been, I guess, bastardized by the fact that the folks who are installing it say, oh yeah, I've got a mesh product. Well, the mesh product is a really wide open screen. And in this case, it's actually not as wide as some of the other systems that are on the market, but clearly it's wide enough to allow stuff to get inside it. We'd appreciate it if you hit the like and subscribe buttons, and be sure to ding the bell and you'll be notified the next time we upload a video. So that water is almost at the top of the gutter.